Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning at this Your Overseas Home webinar. Today, focused on our top tips for going on your property viewing trip to Spain. My name's Hannah Armstrong, and I'm one of the team here at Your Overseas Home. And you may have also come across us as our sister business, Property Guides. As a business as a whole, our aim is to help you realise your dream of buying a beautiful home in sunny Spain. So whether that's by reading our guides, whether that's by attending these events, or by connecting you with industry experts, we want to make sure that you avoid any pitfalls in this process and make it as enjoyable as possible for you. So we're delighted to have you with us today to start that exciting journey. So to give you the very best tips and advice for your viewing trips, I'm joined today by three industry experts. First up, you'll hear from Paul Harris of Smart Currency Exchange. Next up, Russell Klein of Bromley Estates. And lastly, Raquel Perez of Perez Legal. For those of you who are joining us and listening in live today, if you have any questions for our three panelists, please do type those in at the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will do our best to answer as many of those as possible for you. We also have one question that we would like to put back to you, our listeners, today about your plans for your viewing trip. So if you head to the polls section, again on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll be able to answer that query there for us. All the answers are confidential, but it'll just help us to tailor today's session slightly. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first panelist of the day, Paul Harris, who's going to talk to us about the currency planning and budgeting start of your buying journey. Now, Paul's been working in foreign exchange for over 10 years now. He's a real expert in this market, and he regularly speaks at property events like this. So he's going to be able to give us some fantastic insights today. So welcome, Paul. Can I ask you to start by just giving a little bit of background into Smart Currency Exchange and how you will be able to help today's viewers?
Sure, thanks, Hannah. Morning, everyone. So yeah, Smart Currency are a foreign currency specialist. So we will help you transfer money into Spain from whichever currency you have now, obviously, into euros. We've been in the market for over 15 years, and we've helped over 40,000 people in exactly the same position as yourselves to really help afford and be able to achieve the purchasing of property at an affordable price for you. As well in relation to the currency markets. We offer tailored service to each of our clients, as everyone's circumstances and requirements are different. So we work really closely with you to make sure we understand everything about your about the journey and give the best possible advice and ultimately move the money as cost effectively as possible.
Brilliant. Thanks for that intro, Paul. That's a fantastic start. Obviously, today we're thinking about viewing trips and people heading out to Spain to view property. At what point in that process do customers need to start kind of engaging with Smart and thinking about their currency?
We say right at the start. So the actual mechanisms of moving the money over to Spain might not be something you've thought about at all. But if you've been looking at properties, speaking to agents, doing searches online, you will have been looking at certain types of property, certain number of bedrooms, swimming pool, etc. But there will always be a price that you'll be looking at in euros. So that's where we can come in straight away. We can help you understand if your UK budget, let's just say you're based in the UK, if your pound sterling budget marries up with those prices that you're looking for, and we can then help you understand if that budget is achievable for the properties that you're looking at. So we say very early on is always beneficial.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, the majority of people who've answered our little survey question there are saying that they are looking to go on a trip in the next 6 months. So perfect time to be hearing from Paul and the team today about how they can help you. So Paul, can you talk us through a little bit about the different sort of product options that Smart have and the different ways that you can actually do those transfers for the customers?
Absolutely. So I'll talk about just the main ones that we offer, our most popular products. So if you've done some research already, you may have seen spot or forward contracts. So a spot contract is, for example, you would agree a price. So you speak to us, today, agree a price, agree an exchange rate. We'd let you know how many euros you're going to achieve for the pounds you've got. We fix that exchange rate in, we send the money over to us within a couple of days, and we send the money straight out to Spain, wherever it needs to go. We'll get the money into Spain either the same or next working day for you. Really popular product with us because it's very quick. If you need to get money over quickly, perhaps for a deposit, we can do that incredibly quickly for you, and often we can all do it all in one in the space of a couple of hours, depending on obviously if we can get the funds in from yourself quickly, and we can get the funds out quickly for you as well. So really popular products if you're needing to move money quickly. The most popular product that we actually have when it comes to property purchases is a forward contract. The forward contract really helps remove risk from yourself when you're purchasing your property. So, just to give you an example, if you are on your viewing trip in the next 6 months, you fall in love with a property, which does happen. It happens very often. We'll get a phone call and say, look, this is the price. This is the property that I'm buying. Signing on the dotted line. Need to get the money over for the deposit. I'm also interested in finding out how much it's going to cost for the full amount. So at that point, you will have agreed a price in euros. So that price in euros will be then signed on the dotted line, and that's how much your property is going to cost. So you know that's the exact price. What you don't know at that point is how much it's going to cost you in pounds, because the market obviously is going to be moving all the time. So why the forward contract is so popular is because it allows you to fix an exchange rate. So typically we find between the actual agreement date and the completion date, often around about the 3-month mark. So within that 3-month period, again, your euro price is staying the same, but the pound price is going to be going up and down for 3 months. We can actually fix a price for you, so your price is held, and then you don't pay the balance until the completion date. So say, for example, you know your completion date is in 3 months, you're happy with the exchange rate today, we lock in that exchange rate, you pay a 10% deposit just to secure that exchange rate, and then when it comes to the completion date, you just pay the remaining balance. So the reason it's so popular is because it protects you against any market dips. So if, for example, you were waiting for that 3-month period and the market was to drop, ultimately the price of the property is going to cost you more because the exchange rate isn't as favorable for you. So that's where the forward contract protects you, gives you full peace of mind that you know exactly how much it's costing in euros, and you now know how much it's costing you in pounds as well. So it completely secures that for you. Another couple of options that we have are orders. So again, same example, you've signed on the dotted line, but the exchange rate isn't quite where you want it to be. It's not quite working with your budget. You want it to be costing a little bit less. So you want the market to be a little bit stronger for the pound. So what we can do is we can put a marker into the market for you. Say, for example, you're aiming at 120. Don't take 120 as something that is achievable at the moment, because it certainly isn't. But say, for example, that's what you want to aim for. We can certainly put a marker in for you and look to try, and when the market gets there, we'll contact you. So the two options here are an order to call, where obviously if that exchange rate is hit, we'll give you a call, discuss that with you, and if you're wanting to go ahead, we can book that in for you. The other option is an order to buy. So we would hold your funds ahead of time, and as soon as that rate is hit, we would just complete the transaction. Then you've got that exchange rate you're aiming for. The most important thing that you need to pay attention to here with the orders is that because we're aiming for an exchange rate doesn't mean we'll get there. We're completely at the mercy of the market on that. So it does often happen that we will get there, but just as much as we do get there, we don't as well. It depends how much higher you're looking at from the current market price to where you're aiming for. But most of you that will have signed up to an account already and spoken to a trader, have that conversation with them, and they'll give you they'll be very realistic with you if they think that's going to be achievable or not, and work with you to try and understand a more realistic level if you have gone too high. So all very popular products, all come with varying different levels of risk, because obviously if we aim at an order mark and we don't get there, the market is still moving in the background. So it may actually end up being lower than when we originally spoke to you when we set the order. So it does come with a little bit of risk, but it does have that upside potential for you.
Thanks, Paul. That's really helpful, and I hope that's a good comprehensive view of the different products for customers. Now, what do Smart charge in terms of fees or commissions when a customer transacts with you?
We don't charge any fees, so there's no transaction fee, no commission at all. We make our money in the exchange rate itself. So if you were to Google, let's just use again the example of pound sterling to euros, you'll see an exchange rate online. That's where the banks are trading with each other. So it's the market price or the interbank price, which whoever you're talking to will give you slight different names for it. the banks will be trading there. So we can buy very close to that exchange rate, but never actually at that exact exchange rate. So it's always slightly lower for us. And the exchange rate that we offer you again will be a touch lower. So we make our money between where we buy the currency from the bank and where we sell to you. But it's always going to be completely clear with exactly what exchange rate you're getting at the time. No hidden fees or costs or anything associated with it. It's all a very transparent process as far as the exchange rate you're given is concerned.
Great, thanks, Paul. That's really helpful. And a common question that we've been asked is why Smart versus our high street bank, or one of perhaps the payment platforms such as a Revolut or something. There's so many options for customer. What's the sort of benefit of Smart?
The main benefit really is service. So as you mentioned at the start, I've been in in the industry for just over 10 years now. And we've seen a lot of change over the last 10 years with different providers, different types of platforms that have come in. The first part to answer about the banks is companies like us wouldn't exist if we weren't able to, firstly, beat the bank on the exchange rate. But secondly, the service that we offer is far more comprehensive than you get from a bank. So you'd be speaking to an expert, whereas if you speak to someone in the bank, you go into your local branch, that person might not know too much about currency exchange and the markets at all. So they'll just be working off the computer screen that will be offering them an exchange rate. You speak to us, we can give you a bit of guidance and really give you that full round service. Now, as I said, over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, we've seen an influx of online providers, so some platforms. We have an online platform ourselves for the smaller transactions, but to just give a comparison again to that those online platforms. They offer a good service, but you're on your own. So you will log in yourself. There's no one to speak to there. So you're sort of doing the guesswork yourself and just looking at potentially graphs that they're offering you and just looking at an exchange rate they're offering you on the screen. Where we really add a lot of value is having that full conversation with you, talking you through the process and really giving you guidance on where the markets are going and how to actually move the money safely and securely as well. Whereas, again, as I said, an online platform, I'm not here to badmouth them at all. They offer a good solution, but you don't have that level of service. And obviously, when you're looking at big sums of money for a property purchase, that peace of mind speaking to someone can be really valuable.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, really helpful to understand about that sort of personal service that you're able to offer. That's fantastic. Thank you. We've had a customer question in. Customer Esther has just asked about predictions in the rate. She believes that Smart are predicting a rise in the rate January time. So, maybe why would you look to fix something now? Can you give any indication about any sort of predictions or forecasts that you have of what might be happening in the market over the next 6 months?
We don't really predict when rates are going to go up or down directly. If you've spoken to someone that's predicted that at Smart, then it may have been just as a guidance, as something may have been happening in January. We write a forecast ourselves, which has a lot of detail about what are upcoming events that are coming into place. So obviously January was when Brexit went through. It was slightly clouded with everything that's been going on with lockdowns, but Brexit is still very much happening at the moment. Obviously we've got things with COVID. We'll be coming out of the lockdowns hopefully over the next few weeks. Things will be going back to whatever normal is, but that's no guarantee that the exchange rates will be better as a result of that. There's still lots of different factors that will affect the exchange rate. So yeah, we can look forward and say if certain things happen, then there might be some strength in the pound. But ultimately, as soon as we get into the position where we're saying at this date we think the rate's going to go up to this amount, it's bad advice. It's not something that we would offer. We would go down the route of doing with you. We don't know what the rate's going to be in the next 10 minutes. Sorry, let alone the next 12 months. So yeah, I'd say forecast, and like I said, our forecast is great. It gives a lot of information, but we'll try and steer clear of predicting an exchange rate.
Great, thank you for clarifying that, Paul. And I know that's always a tricky question to answer. Thanks for everything that you've shared with us today. Paul's details are on screen for anybody that's got any real specific queries for him or his team, and they will certainly be able to help you with those. But I'm conscious of our time this morning, and I must say I do want to move on to the really exciting part of the viewing trip process, which is obviously heading out to Spain to view the beautiful homes that Spain has to offer. So to discuss this today, I would like to welcome all the way from the beautiful Costa del Sol, Russell Klein, the sales director at Bromley Estates. Now, Russell has worked in sales roles throughout his career, and he's now one of the 3 partners at Bromley Estates. So welcome today, Russell. Thank you for joining us.
I can't hear anyone.
Sorry, are you not able to hear me? I think we might be having a few technical issues in the background. Bear with us one moment.
Hello?
Russell, hello, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to be having a few technical issues there, ladies and gentlemen, in connecting with Russell. Technology is wonderful when it works, but a few issues happening in the background. What I'm going to do today is whilst we get Russell back online, I'm actually going to move forward to our third panelist of the day, Raquel Perez of Perez Legal. So we're going to jump around in our order today. Sorry, ladies and gents. But I'd like to welcome Raquel, who's also based down in the Costa del Sol. Raquel is a legal expert and got really fantastic experience in working with the British market. So welcome today, Raquel. Can you start by giving us a little bit of an introduction into how you can help the viewers with their purchases?
Good morning, Hannah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introductions. Well, Part of the Legal Group was founded 26 years ago with the aim of helping clients to relocate to Spain and also buying their second home or their first home, relocating to Spain. We have managed to put all the services together under the same roof. We are not only lawyers, experts on legal conveyance, but we also offer other fields like litigation. We are also chartered accountants. We help many clients with the driving license, as I said before, relocating to Spain, moving and turning their dreams becoming true. And so far this year, we have already applied for more than 700 applications of residency permits for our clients, which have been very successful. So that's the introductions. It has been a long road, but a very happy road.
Fantastic. Thank you, Raquel. That's a really great introduction. So I think, as I asked Paul as well, it'd be great to understand at what point in the process does a customer need to start working with a solicitor, with you and your team? When in their buying journey do they need to get in contact with you?
Well, I always recommend to all my inquirers that the first step is to contact Smart in order to get together the information about changing the money for the budget they've got to buy a property in Spain, and the lawyer. Any law firm in Spain will need a specific power of attorney in order to represent the clients, either they are moving or just buying the second home as an investment. And the first thing is to get the power of attorney to be signed. It can be signed in the UK, because there is crucial to have 2 things to start with, and even I would advise even before they're coming, which is the NI certificate, because they need for the NI number for absolutely everything, and a Spanish bank account. That's the first step. I would say that they should get in touch with us and then get moving, get the process to get started. That's the first thing.
That's great. Thank you, Raquel. So you mentioned there the NIE number. How do customers apply for an NIE number?
Well, with the power of attorney, we can apply the NI number on their behalf. We just need information of a scanned copy of their passport, their address, their postal address, their profession, and the marital status. We prepare the document of the power of attorney. It's a double-barrel document in English and Spanish, and we send them the document duly prepared and the guidance to contact the closest notary public to their address. NI number can also be applied if you don't want to do it with a lawyer through the Spanish consulate, but it's quite complex. You need to fill in the forms in Spanish, they're not in English. And also there are long queues for doing that, and it's a very slow process. It can take months and months. So the quickest way is to do the power of attorney, as we're going to need it anyway, sooner or later. We then do the application, we also do the collection, and within 20 days, they've got it.
That's great. That's really helpful that they're able to do that so quickly. So that's fantastic. Thank you. So in terms of the actual property buying process, can you talk to us a little bit about the timeline? So a customer has come out to Spain, they've done a viewing trip, they've found a fantastic, beautiful home that they want to buy, they've placed an offer. How long is that typical timeline between placing an offer and actually completing and getting the keys in their hands?
Well, if we already have the power of attorney, it's quite straightforward. We can complete as little as 40 days, even I would say 30 days, between 30 to 45 days, or we can extend that in case vendor and buyer are agreeing to extend that time frame. The most important thing is to get the legal searches done at the beginning. If we have already the power of attorney, then obviously we have already moved forward in the process. We've got already the power of attorney, we've got the NI number in place, we've got a Spanish bank account. So the first step is I will request the buyer the deposit, considering already the price is agreed. Then I get the deposit in an escrow of a bank account. I mean, bearing in mind that the process is the same in the UK, the transaction always happens between lawyers. So I request the deposit. I lodge the deposit in the deposit is lodged in the escrow bank account. I get all the paperwork from the lawyer, from the vendor's lawyer, get the legal searches completed, and send the report to the buyer. Once we have made sure that everything is correct, we have checked that the property has a license, what is the situation with the property in the land registry, what are the running costs of the property, how much they are, and how often they get paid. So we have made sure they got a clean registration of the property. There is nothing that we have to worry about. Then we move and pay the first deposit. Within 15 days, we pay the 10%. Yes, which is again signing of a private purchase contract in which we agree all the terms and conditions of the purchase and completion. And then the next step is to prepare the completion date. All the money is paid up front, will be obviously deducted from the final balance to be paid on completion. That all the money goes normally to our escrow of a bank account. We prepare a bank draft. This is to save money to the buyers, because to start with, having a non-resident bank account, obviously the money will have they will charge for banker's draft. So you already have the funds in place, and then we will then complete with the power of attorney on behalf of the client. Same day of completion, we provide a copy of the title deed of the purchase, which prove they are the legal owners, and then the original is taken to the land registry to be registered in their names, and which takes normally 3-4 months. So that's the process, a summary of the process.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Raquel. Really, really helpful there. You obviously mentioned there a little bit about checking with land registry and looking at property licenses. Can you give our listeners any advice about getting property surveys? Obviously in England and Wales, we're very used to getting, well, and Scotland, very used to getting surveys on our properties before we purchase. Is that something that happens in Spain? And is that something that you help with?
Yes, certainly, we do help. I mean, we don't recommend really to do a survey on an apartment that it's not really an old apartment and it's integrated in a complex, because, I mean, it's not necessary. We normally recommend the client to employ, to get a survey done. We can help with the contact and independently of the area where the clients are buying, when it's an independent properties, especially when they are rustic, they are placed in a rustic land, it is important that we, together with the surveyor or the architect, we work together to put the legal searches, making sure that the square meters matches between the town hall and the land registry. And if since the time that the first license was acquired, was obtained for the property, there's no modifications or not or illegal modifications has been made to the property.
That's great. That's really helpful advice. Thank you, Raquel. And it's interesting to understand that it's a slightly different process to what we're used to here in the UK. Thank you. Now, one of our listeners this morning, Ritu, has asked about fees. What are the typical fees that a customer would expect to pay a lawyer for their purchase process?
There is a standard fee, actually imposed by the law bar association, and it can vary between 0.8% up to 1.5% of the purchase price, with a minimum fee of 1,200 euros plus VAT, which is 21%, and that's roughly what charge can be. Considering the total budget, including the legal fees, I always say to the client that they should obviously count with the budget on top of the purchase price with 12-13%, obviously as well, depending on the area. For example, transfer tax is not the same in Andalusia than in Costa Blanca. In Costa Blanca area, the transfer tax is 10%, and in Costa del Sol, belonging to obviously this area to Andalusia, it's 7%. It has been reduced recently. So, but the lawyer fee varies between that 0.8% up to 1.5%. That in that margins can move around of the purchase price.
Brilliant. Thank you, Raquel. Very helpful. And Ritu, I hope that clarified for you. Andrew has asked about setting up a bank account in Spain. How would Andrew go about doing that? Is that something you can help with? If you can give any explanation to bank accounts, that would be wonderful.
Of course. We open many bank accounts on a daily basis, and we're very familiar with the procedure. The bank account, I mean, clients need to understand that to start with, they are opening a non-resident bank account. What is the difference between a non-resident and a resident bank account? Obviously, if you are remaining non-resident in Spain, the bank charges are different, and you've got different terms and conditions for maintaining the bank account. That's important to know. If the clients are becoming resident, obviously there is a process whether the non-resident bank account has to become resident once they've got the residency permit approved. But I mean, getting back on what the question really entails, to open a bank account is not difficult. We can do on behalf of our clients with the power of attorney, as I mentioned at the beginning, and we always request to our clients the following. The last P60 or tax return, this is what the bank, generally speaking, will request. A last P60 or tax return. If the person is retired, they will request for a pension wage slip, or just justify that they are pensioner, receiving either a pension or private pension or a state pension. Then the national health insurance number and an utility bill. This is the standard documents that they will require for opening a bank account. Of course, we will provide a copy of passport that we already have in file, and some banks will request a NI number. What are the differences between banks, one bank or the other, which is a very common question? Well, mainly the difference are the cost of maintaining the bank account. We normally work a lot with Santander. Why? Because it's not difficult to open the bank account with them, and also because the maintenance fee of the bank account are not very expensive. They charge 20 euros per quarter, which is not a lot of money. Other banks, for example, Sabadell, Cajasur, there are other saving banks, online banking. The charges can vary slightly. All the conditions of opening the bank account can vary more than slightly. For example, Cajasur, which is a saving bank, to start with a bank account to a non-resident, they request a minimum deposit of 20,000 euros, which I think is crazy. It's a lot of money. I mean, at the end of the day, the Spanish bank has nothing to do with opening the bank account. I mean, as far as there is an issue, they can always close the bank account. So there are Sabadell, for example, La Caixa offer different services that you have to tie up to them if you open a bank account. So there are a lot of variety of different non-resident bank accounts type of, but I would say that generally speaking, any bank will request the same documents, last specific tax return if you're retired, justify that you're a pensioner, national insurance number, and a utility bill. And some banks will request a minimum deposit of 50 euros, 100 euros. Except maybe another specific banks like Cajasur I mentioned before, that they really request a lump sum, which I will not go with.
Thanks, Raquel. Really helpful. Fantastic advice there. One last question that I wanted to ask you about is just about the inheritance and wills, particularly in respect to property. So we know from recent surveys that a number of our customers are looking to retire to Spain. So they are thinking about their will and their inheritance position of leaving their Spanish property to their children, the next generation. Can you give any advice on, do customers need a specific Spanish will for their property, or would their will in the UK suffice?
Yes, we are also experts on inheritance procedure and Spanish wills, and we have been especially for the last 10 years, we focus very much on inheritance procedures. The inheritance tax depends very much on the region that the property and the assets are located. Independently that the person is resident or non-resident, it is important they do have a Spanish will. The English will not cover Spanish assets, because even if Spanish assets are mentioned in the UK will, then it's not valid. In order that an inheritance procedure can take place in Spain for Spanish assets, and when I say assets, I don't only say properties. I refer to absolutely everything: Spanish bank accounts, if you got cars, if you got jewelry, if you got, I don't know, any funds, private funds, deposits in a private account or in a private company or independently of the bank. So I put all together. You don't need to sign a Spanish will every time you acquire a property. So, for example, you buy one property now, and in 3 years you buy another one, you don't have to sign another will. The will says specifically that covers present and future assets in Spain. And this is very important to take into account. Completely separate to the English will. They should have an English will, or I mean, don't get me wrong, if they got an American property, they should have an American will, because every country has a different jurisdiction and legislation with regards to inheritance. Now, the procedure of a Spanish will is very different in Spain to in the UK. We've got a central office of registration of wills in Spain. So the Spanish will, the procedure is we provide a form, the client has to fill in the form, we send the form to the client, we receive the form, we prepare the will, and the will, once they are in Spain, has to be signed in presence of a Spanish notary public. Then we undertake the work of registering the will, because the wills in Spain are registered in the central office of Madrid, in a central office in Madrid of every person that's signing a Spanish will. Independently that is resident, non-resident, Spanish, English, doesn't matter the nationality. That's the procedure for the Spanish will. Now, the second question you have asked about the inheritance. The inheritance depends, as I mentioned before, very much on where the properties are located. For example, in Andalusia, the inheritance tax was abolished up to 1 million euros. which was fantastic reduction. And so you don't pay anything up to 1 million euros per inheritor, which is fantastic. Now, depending on the region, there are certain thresholds that needs to take into account, but obviously every situation has to be obviously studied separately. But just to clarify, yes, you need a will. It's not expensive. For example, we as lawyers, we charge 265 euros plus VAT for the preparation of the will, and the Spanish notary fees is around 60 euros per Spanish will. But yes, it's important that the moment you are buying a property, investing in a property, bank account, putting money, depositing money, etc., you should have a Spanish will, which covers everything, present and future assets in Spain. We undertake, or any lawyer will undertake, the registration of the will in the central office of Madrid, and it remains completely separated of the UK will. If for some reason you change inheritors, if for some reason there is a modification, there is a divorce, or you got more children, etc., you can always sign a new will. Modifications do not exist. You don't modify the persisting will. You assign a new will, and then the new will null the previous will, will cancel the previous will, and then always the last one remains legal and valid.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Raquel. That's been really, really fantastic advice. I feel we could chat on today for hours. There's so many interesting questions and interesting points to discuss here, but I'm really conscious of our time, and I do want to make sure we've got time to talk to Russell today now we've sorted out those technical problems. So thank you again, Raquel, and we will make sure that we put customers in touch with Raquel to answer any specific queries and questions. So thank you very much for your help. Now I will move on to Russell. Russell, I'm hoping that you can now hear me this morning.
You clearly. Can you hear me?
Brilliant. I can hear you and I can see you. It's wonderful to have you on the line, Russell. Thank you for bearing with us, with your patience this morning. So I'd love it if you could start by giving the customers today a bit of an introduction into Bromley Estates, the work that you do and how you're able to help our viewers.
Well, Bromley Estates is now in its 12th year. I think we're one of the largest and most successful agencies on the Costa del Sol, but I guess that's a biased opinion. There are no structured figures. Bromley Estates started with a lady called Hayley Bromley, and basically Hayley started the company based on her experience of coming to Spain to buy a property and finding it confusing in relation to what she was used to from the UK. And I think that's probably one of the motivations of this webinar, in the fact that, you know, people tend to think that we're all very similar, and as Raquel pointed out, especially in the legal sense, the buying process of actual looking and searching for property is very different to the UK. And I think sometimes it causes the potential buyer a lot of confusion, in the fact that in the UK you tend to use many different agents. But I'll come to that. But anyway, 12 years in business, we're very experienced, and we base the whole company's philosophy on trying to make the experience as pleasurable as possible and as safe as possible, certainly using reputable lawyers and making sure they're directed to the right mortgage brokers, the right banks, everyone they need. We've got a complete, we're not just offering a real estate service, we offer a complete support package. If the people don't know where to go, we've got that experience, we've got that knowledge, and it's completely, you know, their own judgment, but we can provide them with all of the necessary things they're going to require to go through the process. And that's what we base Bromley Estates on, is trying to make the buying experience, which is generally for a second or third home often. So there isn't quite the urgency there is when you're looking for a home, and if you don't find it, you're homeless. But they say that two of the most stressful things in life are probably going through a divorce and buying a property. We try to make the buying property into the pleasure that it should be. You're buying a dream home, you're buying a second home in the sunshine, and it's all for pleasure, for life experience. And we try and keep it as fun as that. Even to what, you know, whether they pick up from the airport, whether they need to be shown the entire coast from Malaga to Gibraltar, we're there to provide them with whatever service they require. And coming back to the point I was touching on, is we do try and get the client exclusive to Bromley Estates, based on the politics behind buying a property often confuse the client. I can summarize, I can expand on that if you want to give me time, but because I think it's a very relative point.
We'll come back to that throughout the presentation, definitely today, Russell. But first of all, I wanted to ask, how long really would customers need to kind of find that dream home? I know everyone's circumstances are going to differ, but you know, the customers listening today, the majority of people have said they want to come out and start viewing in the next 6 months. You know, how long do they need to kind of start that search, narrow down properties? What would your advice be on how much time to give this process?
Well, I think the longer time they can give it, the more certainty there is of them not only finding what they want, but viewing sufficient property to be convinced that what they've found is not only what they want, but it starts to serve all of the things. You know, is it near the airport? Is it walking distance to bars, restaurants, cafes, to the beach? Is it, what are the views? What are the options for the money? Because obviously in different areas they get different value for money. So I think the more time they can give it, the more satisfactory the whole experience can be. And we organise tours with clients where they come for a week, but we might do 4 days out of the week. They've got 3 rest days, or whatever the client wants, we will do. And whether they tour once with us, twice, 10, or over 2 years even. We've had clients that we've had on our books for 2 and 3 years that suddenly, you know, they start looking. I mean, certainly due to the pandemic, we were seeing more inquiries than we'd ever seen, with zero capital input from us to promote marketing, because people were sitting home on their computers and looking and dreaming of, probably more so than ever, of travelling and getting out of their confined spot. But we maintain them all. We don't, you know, whether it's going to be when we've sold the business, when we've sold another property, when we're currently coming to Spain on holiday, we don't care. Whatever the client wants, whatever they require, we will deliver. And if we have to stay with them a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 day or even half a day, or to view one property, it doesn't matter, whatever it takes.
Brilliant. Oh, that's wonderful, Russell. It's wonderful that there's such a flexible service that you're able to offer. I mean, you mentioned there about somebody coming out for, say, a week, and maybe you spend 4 days with them. What would be a good number of properties to view in a week's trip out to Costa del Sol?
Well, obviously, my answer is always going to be you view properties until you find the right one and you're comfortable and happy and secure that you've found the right property. And often viewing other properties, even if it's only to make you secure that your first choice was your best choice. Just, I think people come here to buy. I don't think it's a difficult sale. In fact, sales is not really our motivation, is to find the client what they want. If we can get into their heads and pin the criteria down, the search becomes more efficient, more effective, and we find the job easier. But often, of course, the clients don't know what they want, or they've come with incorrect information about pricing. They've watched a TV program that's telling them they could have a beautiful penthouse apartment in Puerto Banús for 100,000 euros, and that was the Costa Blanca or another area or whatever. So I think we have to assess the situation each and every time. But viewing property, I would say to view more than 5 or 6 in a day might be a bit strenuous for any client in this heat. Some clients only want to view 1 a day. Again, we have to tailor it to do exactly what the client wants. They tend to set the pace. Some are very urgent, some want to get it done and dusted, and some have been looking for a long time. You know, we've got clients that live here on the Costa del Sol, English clients that live here, that are now buying a second or third property, or selling one and buying another one, and they can come in over the next 6 months, 1 afternoon or 2 afternoons a week. You know, it does very much vary on each individual client, but we'll do again whatever needs to be done.
Great, thank you. And in terms of fees, obviously Bromley Estates provides a really fantastic comprehensive service for customers. Do the buyers pay you any fees, or is it more like the UK arrangement where traditionally you would take your fees from the sellers?
Absolutely, it's 100% that. The vendor pays the fee. We list their property, we sign a listing agreement, we agree a commission. It's normally around the 5% is a listing fee. And whether we get the 5% because it's our direct listing and with our direct customer, or whether we split that fee 50-50 with another agent because the client wants to see another property, which brings me back to my original point. We have access, as Bromley Estates, we have access through resales online. We have access to every single property for sale on the Costa del Sol. And if the client wants to view any property they see on the internet on the Costa del Sol, as long as they send us a tag or a reference number or a website or a name or whatever, we will arrange that viewing, not a problem. It may involve us splitting our commission with another agency, but it makes it easier, because the minute the client deals with 6 or 7 different agencies which is very, very normal in the UK, because in the UK, the whole business is about listings. In Spain, it's more about selling. I don't mind whether it's the properties with another agent. As long as we get access to view it, we will make sure our client sees every possible property that fits their criteria as the criteria becomes clearer. But once you've viewed with one agent, if you're, say you're coming for the week and you're going to do one day with Bromley, one day with another agent, one day with another agent, one day with, every time you go to another agent, that agent can't show you what another agent has already shown you. So what some agents will do is, okay, fine, I'll find you something better. What bad agents will do is burn, if you like, the original product, because they can't sell it, because we have a listing agreement with the vendor and we've introduced the client and they will buy it through Bromley Estates, as does every agent. And it's not a problem. The only problem I'm saying is it confuses the buyers, because then you've got one agency saying it's a great property, great value, great this, and another company would say, okay, fine, that they might leave it at okay, fine, we'll show you others. Another agent might say, no, you don't want to be buying that one, and you don't want to be buying that one. And then the clients get confused, and then they get frightened, then they get scared. And some of the old haunts of the Costa del Sol, not being totally legitimate, which is no longer the case. It's superb now, and it's come, as Raquel said, it's come on leaps and bounds, and it's also black and white now, and so correct and proper. But clients do come with an excitement to buy, but a fear of making an error or a mistake. And that's why these webinars are brilliant, because they can tell them, I don't know what clients are listening or not listening, but I would tell any of our clients, this is what I'm telling you. You take the information and you do with it whatever you want, but it could change the experience for you from something very simple to something a little bit more complicated.
Thank you. That's really sound advice, Russell. And I think that's the point that every panelist today has tried to reassure. Paul, from a currency point of view, a safe and responsible way to change your money. Raquel, with all the legals, making sure that everything you do with your purchase and your wills are legit. And likewise with you, we as a business want to make sure that this process is exciting, just as it should be, as you mentioned. So that's really reassuring, Russell. Thank you. Somebody's asked a question about the areas that you cover. Obviously, we're talking about Costa del Sol, but we've got a customer who might also be interested in the Almeria area. Can you help customers there?
We prefer not to, because it's too far travelling point to get there and back. We're not experts in that area. We have access to the properties through resales online, and we can see them. But I think they're better off to go to a dedicated agent in that area, who I think, I say we're not all things to all men. Well, I think anything between Malaga Airport and like Soto Grande, that sort of area, Gibraltar, if you like, that's our area, and we're experts in that area, and we're knowledgeable about that area, and we know the agents to go to who might command the bulk of the listings in that area, because we don't care whether we're working with another agent or not. Our only priority is the client and finding them what they want.
Perfect. That's good advice. Thank you. And for the customer that did ask the question about Almeria, actually, Russell's advice is very helpful. We do have a connection with an agent that specialises in that area. So separate to this, we'll send you over those details. Now, talking about that area, we've got a customer joining today. A lot of our customers are actually looking for retirement properties, but somebody joining today is wanting to move out with their school-aged children. Do you have any recommendations of areas that are good for kids, good for schools, things like that?
Oh, it's a very, very popular question. I mean, it's just like, is it near the airport? Can I walk to bars, restaurants and cafes? Where are there supermarkets? All of the popular things that people want on holiday. But of course, the people that are coming to live, education is going to be one of the primary questions they want to know. And we know where all the schools are, all the private schools. We've even got an idea that the expensive ones from the less expensive ones, and even some sort of reputation. I mean, I've lived on the Costa del Sol here for 30 years. And my own children have been to 3 or 4 of the schools in this area anyway. So between our team, we have a great deal of experience with schools, and it is a question we can help with, we can assist with. We'd even go as far as making an appointment with the headmasters to get the people an interview with the school if that's what was required. Whether it's going to the pharmacy for one of our clients or taking them to a school, we would do whatever. And I'll be honest, I don't want to sound too much like a salesman, but if that means the client is happy to be loyal to Bromley and therefore get a very transparent, consistent approach to the sales process, that's what we aim to do. Because when they go with other agents, it causes an awful lot of confusion for all the wrong reasons.
Good advice. Thank you so much, Russell. And now, I guess the question on everybody's lips at the moment, post-COVID, what is happening with the market down on the Costa del Sol? I think there's a sort of a misconception, perhaps, that, you know, post-pandemic, there's going to be a chance to get a good deal. But I think we're hearing from people that the market's pretty active at the moment. Can you tell us sort of a bit of an indication, with your expertise, what's happening at the moment out there?
Well, listen, what's happening is fantastic, thank goodness, because, you know, when the pandemic hit 15 months ago, it was shocking, and that travel ended and lockdown was a true lockdown, and nobody was open and we were closed and you could work from home. The only thing good that happened during the start of the pandemic is as I said before, our inquiries from people sitting bored at home on their computer, our inquiries went through the roof. We were seeing more inquiries than ever. The problem is over that year and a half, those inquiries, we've tried to maintain all of them and maintain contact with all of them. But of course, our job doesn't really begin in a big way until the client is physically here to view property. Even though we were doing sales on virtual tours through video, showing it over video. If people were familiar with the areas or they're familiar with the urbanizations, they were looking for specific things. We did a number of sales on video conferencing. But the bulk of our sales, we need people to be here to view property. It's a large expense. It's something that normally involves them. I like it, always good, but it's now subject to me viewing, which they'll come out and view. And viewings are picking up, but we're all getting much, much busier as, you know, we've now got this red, green, amber. So there are people traveling to Spain now. We did notice that our value per deal actually went up, because it seemed the people with the greater freedom to travel, that didn't have to ask for time off work, or that weren't looking for any problems with quarantine, were obviously the wealthier business people. So we felt that our individual sale price was going up on average, because we were seeing a higher end client. But prices didn't drop. Lots of people thought they were coming out expecting prices to fall, but, you know, prices haven't fallen. Sales are rife, and we're all still waiting, certainly from a UK point of view, when Spain hits the green light, or green, we're, according to our records, according to a year and a half of work, there are people more desperate now to buy in Spain than ever before, and we're expecting almost not to be able to handle the rush.
Well, I mean, that is great. I mean, to hear the positivity is so great, because of everything everyone's been through. So so yeah, thank you so much. I'm really conscious of our time. We've got to wind up the session now, but thank you to all of our panelists. We've unfortunately lost Raquel with a technical issue. Technology has not been on our side today, but thank you all for joining us, and thank you to all of our customers for listening in. And we will send out a replay of today's session so you can refresh your memory on anything, and we'll send all of the contact information for our panelists out to you as well, so you can get in touch with them and really start planning those viewing trips and planning those purchases. Last thing from our side is we're just going to pop a quick link on our website to our Property Guides website on screen now. Do head over there. There's all sorts of other buying advice, property portals and things like that on there to have a look at. So do head over there. We'll email you next week with all of these details. And the last thing from our side is to just say thank you for joining us today, and we wish you a really, really happy and successful move to Spain. So thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.